Hi, this is Jonny from Progression. I'm here to show you 3 or 4 quick workflows from the product to give you a sense of how it works and how it feels. Let me know if you want to see more and we can book in some time. So, to ground us in what we're looking at here, this is Solo Co, a small organisation, 88 employees, and 6 teams set up in Progression. Each team has its career paths set up and skills, etc. So we can start by digging into a team. I'm going to look at the product design team here, and straight away you can see 2 parallel tracks of career ladders, if you like. So design management at the top and product design at the bottom. I might just switch those 2 around. So I've got my associate through to principal product designer and design manager through to director of design. Each of these levels has a bunch of detail in it about what's expected at each of those levels. So I can see here 12 skills. If I switch over to the skills view, you can see how these skills are organized. Each skill has a set of levels, and broadly you add a level of a skill into a position. All of this content comes from our library, and we have templates for quick team setup. We have 240 odd skills in our library as well that you can use and pull into your organization, and we have an AI skill generator as well, so that if there's anything missing, that you can create it pretty quickly as well. So broadly what happens is I set up my positions or my career paths and then my skills, and then I attach the 2 together, and what that ends up looking like is this. So I have my senior product designer role with a description at the top, and then I've got all of these skills down here. So ultimately what we're doing is defining the skills expected at each level of seniority within each team. All of that is built on the same skill set. So if I open up my organization skills, I can see here all of the skills in the whole organization, including which teams and positions are using them. So for example, I could say which is my most popular skill by team, and then I can open that up and check out who has that skill and at which level. So I can see that there's 7 people at level 1. This not checked in, I'll dig into in just a second. So that's basically how a team works. Once I've set up my teams, I can invite all my employees, and then they can start to compare and explore different roles within the organization. So if I go into this compare view, this is where I can start to compare myself versus a role that I want. So I'm a senior design manager. I've chosen as my next role director of design within the product. So immediately I can start to see the difference between the skills I have or need in my current role and the skills that I would need as a director of design as well. It's a really simple view that all employees get access to. Just gives you a really simple way of choosing the skills to focus on next. So we're still just looking at the data, the raw content of the career paths at this point and the skills. But when I want to actually track myself more actively against that? So that's where we get to our check-ins view. And as a manager and report combo, I want to be having good conversations about my growth. I want to be rubber stamping my skills over time and really feeling like I'm making progress. So that's where progression check-ins come in. So I can start a check-in from our create modal here alongside a bunch of other things. So a check-in, I start with my manager typically and against my current position by default. I can choose a different person to check in against against a different role as well. That just gives me the flexibility to be able to explore moving into different teams and trying new things out. I'll start a check-in with Sophie against my current role for now, and I'll show you how a check-in works. So this is something that an employee and manager might complete together every few months. And this is just that moment to say, yeah, you have grown in these skills and made some progress towards your goals. So we go through this skill by skill, basically. So I choose whether I'm working towards meeting or exceeding any skill in my role and all skills in my role. And I'll work through, I might write some some extra detail. I can also check out the any updates that I've made in progression since my last check-in. So this is where we get to these updates. I can add a note, a win, an action, or a feedback as part of progression, which then contributes to these moments in time, these check-ins where I can rubber stamp my growth. So a win is very simple. We have a Slack plugin that can also do this, but I can add a win for myself or any number of other people. I can tag a skill, skills in their role, for example, and then I would just write a simple sentence with that win in it. An action is a very simple to do. So think of it goals, but in the most sort of granular level. So I might decide that in order to focus on communication, which is a skill I want to improve at, I might decide to write a good email to the company next month. And I might choose a to-do date for that and add that action. Feedback is another simple but effective feature within progression, so I can request feedback or give feedback, and that feedback ultimately gets tagged with skills as well. So all of those features drive skill data back into progression that I can use, my manager can use, and the organization can use to get a sense of which skills are being most used and do they have most data on. But it's also really useful as part of this check-in, so I can see what I worked on most recently and I don't have to remember to advocate for myself. So I go through this process, my manager then does the same thing, and it results in a completed check-in. So I'll go to the completed check-ins view and we can have a look and see what those check-ins look like in aggregate. So I think the organization here has 144 completed check-ins. So when you start to think about check-ins across the whole base, then this becomes a very powerful view for looking at where skill growth lies, who is most engaged with their teams, and where you need to give the organization a nudge as to moving those check-ins forward. I can see completion rate, but I can also dig into an individual check-in. So let me find a completed check-in. So let's look at Lyra's check-in here. So here I can see that Lyra was meeting the expectations of her role at this point in time. So she checked in against associate product designer here, and we can see the shape of her skills against her check-in. So for example, communication, empathy, and initiative, Lyra still needs to do some work on. Visual design and objectivity, all fine. And then she was exceeding when it came to user focus, systems thinking, and business context. So this is some really nice data around where Lyra needs to work next. As part of that check-in, we wrote a summary. We also added some actions, and we've got all of this data here that we can, either Lyra or I can use as part of ongoing performance conversations, or just to start to get data points as to how quickly Lyra is growing or how engaged she is with her growth. The other good thing about this is actually if Lyra is exceeding associate product designer, she might want to be a product designer. So let's compare Lyra's growth against the next role up, and straight away she can get a sense of how far away she is from that. So this again is really exploratory experience for employees. We've always focused on the employee experience to try and give employees maximum visibility and autonomy over their growth. But this also gives tons of skills data as well. So if I dig into insights here, then this is a workflow that someone on an organization level might want to look at in order to get a sense of how skills are going, where the strongest and weakest skills in the organization are, and what they need to focus on next in terms of maybe learning and development, or hiring, or starting to design the organization. So we can scroll down and start to get a sense of across everybody where are the strongest and weakest skills. I can browse a skill map across the whole organization. I can also see the updates. This demo was created a few days ago, so you can see the update stopped at the point at which the demo was created, but I can see, for example, the number of wins received, notes created, all of that kind of thing on any given day, and I can see a trend over time too. So there's the start of some really interesting insights here. We have the underlying data to be able to create insights around, for example, organization planning, skill strength and weakness cut in a lot of different ways. So this is just the start of the insights that we can start to get out of progression as we start to focus more on the organization layer. The final thing to show you is I just created this team as a public team. So if you go to 101.progression.com, any team on Progression can be made public. So you can go to this URL. This is live right now, and you can start to browse some of these teams yourselves. So feel free to dig into, for example, this engineering team and start to have a look at individual roles and see if you can get a sense of how the product works from the outside in. But we have customers that are using this very effectively as part of a hiring process, or just to improve their employer brand, as well as using it for internal purposes too. That's a whistle-stop tour. Please let me know if you have any other questions. We can dig in or get on a call.